I realized we were different, really different, on a rainy morning in 1987. The Shepherd's Life, A Tale of the Lake District by James Banks. Earlier this week, I read this memoir, and the opening line was so captivating that it made me want to devour the book in one spot. Then I thought of all the opening lines I have read over the years in literature that were so intriguing that they drew me into the story. Whether or not the storytelling met expectations is a gist for another day. Today, we'll be diving into some of the unforgettable opening lines in literature that I have read. You know, the kind of lines, that's the first sentence or the hook, that when you read them, you think about them. Not only do you think about them, but when you read them, you instantly want to sit down there and read the book. Like, you move the book to the top of your to be read list. Yeah. So the first line usually set the tone for the book. I may not judge a book by its cover, but I am definitely judging a book by its opening sentence. Compiled 20, I've got my laptop here. I've compiled 20 of those opening lines, and I want to share them with you because they are phenomenal. It's a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife. I'm sorry, I'm trying to laugh. It's a funny book. Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. It's a satire set in 19th century England, mostly about love, social class, and marriage. It was the end of the rainy season. Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. That's a quiet, simple introduction to arguably or undeniably one of the greatest work of African literature, and it's about colonialism and the Igbo tradition. It was their wedding night. They were both young, both virgins, and they were strangers. Half of a Yellow Sun by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I sometimes think about it, and virgins, young, strangers, married. When I picked up that book, it made me want to read every single bit, and I wasn't disappointed. I think you should read it too. It's a love story based on an historically accurate event, the Biafra genocide in Nigeria. It was a bright, cold day in April, and the clocks were striking 13. 1984 by George Orwell. Is this something very familiar, like a clock, to create a chilling dystopian line? The novel borders on totalitarian, this way the government holds all the powers, surveillance, and psychological manipulation. I was just a little boy when I saw my father kill a man. Graceland by Chris Urbani. It was blood-curdling, to say the least, because what do you mean by you were a little boy when you saw your father kill a man? All happy families are alike. Each unhappy family is unhappy in its own way. Story of love, infidelity, and tragedy in the Russian society. I was a stretcher bearer during the war. Joys of Motherhood by Buche Mecheta. Spoiler alert, there is nothing joyful about the motherhood in that book. Nwego that's the female main character, is the kind of woman I never want to be because she went through hell. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. It's like the story captures the contradiction of the French revolutions. The Guardian captured it as one of the top 10 opening lines, iconic opening lines of literature. In the moment before I was born, I floated weightless, suspended in the womb of my mother. Everything good would come by Sefi Atta. It's like poetry, intimacy, seamless flow, draws you in, but it chronicles the story of a Nigerian woman, and it follows her from girlhood into womanhood. If you really want to hear about it, the first thing you probably want to know is where I was born. The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. Just go read the book. I'm not telling you anything. My father, James Agri Kweku Ajay, was buried in Accra in July 2004. Homegoing by Yagazi, a multi-generational saga tracing the history or the story of slavery from 18th century Ghana to present-day America. If that kind of story intrigues you, please, by all means, read the book. Return from a visit to my landlord. The Solitary Neighbor That I Shall Be Troubled With, Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, is based on a story of love, isolation, and it's kind of eerie to begin a book with that. But Fun fact, the book is based in Yorkshire. I live in Yorkshire. That's as much as I can say on social media. We wish to inform you that tomorrow we will all be killed with our families. And we wish to inform you by Philip Gaurevich. The story of the Rwandan genocide is based on accurate historical events, and it's blood-curdling. Lolita, light of my life, fire of my loins, my sin, my soul. It's haunting, it's giving desperation, poetic prose, deeply disturbing obsession and manipulation. Read it. I loved it. You better not never tell nobody but God. African American story, The Color Purple by Alice Walker. It tells us a story of pain, vulnerability, post-slavery, abuse and oppression. Miss Brooke had that kind of beauty which seemed to be thrown into the relief by Poor Dress. Middlematch by George Eliot. It gives you a sharp character insight and falls deeply into an emotional portrait of 19th century English life. 124 was spiteful, full of a baby's venom. Beloved by Toni Morrison. Story centered on a formerly enslaved woman that is haunted by her past. The city was silent. The earth trembled beneath her feet. Hadassah pressed her back against the stone wall of the house and waited. A Voice in the Wind by Francine Rivers. It's a historical fiction about faith, persevering despite all odds. I Am an Invisible Man from Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison. It's an iconic, very iconic novel about identity, race, and invisibility in America. It's powerful and poetic. And Mrs. Dursley of number 4 Privet Drive, we're proud to say that they were perfectly normal. Thank you very much. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone by J.K. Rowling. Go, I know you've read the book already. If you haven't, what are you doing here? Once there were 4 children whose names were Peter, Susan, Edmund, and Lucy. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis. It opens with childlike, I think it's a children's storybook, but it's like, it has childlike simplicity, it's magical, draws your attention, and it's quite captivating. So I'll wrap it up by my all-time favorite novel. I read this novel when I was coming of age, and it hasn't won major prizes, but I think it was phenomenal because of the season of life I was when I read it. I was 12. Things started to fall apart at home when my brother Jaja did not go to communion, and Papa flung his heavy missile across the room and broke the figurines on the etage. I used to pronounce it as etagere. That's what, when you learn a word by reading it, it's not pronounced that way. Go and find your own pronunciation. I found one for myself. Thank you very much for watching. Which opening line fascinated you the most? And for those who are watching who are not my primary audience, I read mostly African fiction. I'm African, so I was mostly exposed to African fiction. A good number of those, I think about half of them, are African fiction, which you may not necessarily relate with if you are not a fan of African literature. And if you're not, why not? By the way, the last one was Purple Hibiscus by Chimamanda Adichie. To make this nice video so that you could watch me read. Which opening line intrigued you the most? Drop it in the comment section and let me know which of the books you have read and which one you'll be reading. See you. Bye.